folks, Michael Anthony here with There is Comfort in Discomfort Part 2. So hopefully you had a chance to watch the first part of this series where we discussed there is comfort in discomfort, and specifically I read an article by Thomas Opong called Get Comfortable with Discomfort. Great article. Like I mentioned in that first video, I read it a few times per week just to remind me of the amazing value that intentional discomfort can bring to your life and how it can change your brain for the better. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that, I suggest going back, watching that first video, and then coming and watching this video. Because the purpose of this episode is to get into some of the mechanics of how to purposefully engage discomfort, how to approach discomfort in different ways using different techniques, and to get past yourself, meaning to get past your mind, the procrastination, that uncomfortable feeling that your brain is going to project onto you to try to prevent you from doing whatever it is that you're attempting to do. So the first part, we talked a lot about the brain and how it's related to discomfort, and in this part we're going to talk about how you can inherently experience growth and expansion and really living a phenomenal life by intentionally approaching discomfort in different ways. So with that said, there are 5 ways I like to personally approach discomfort, and I'm going to share those with you over the course of this episode. However, before we get into that, I want to share a story with you. So if you can bear with me for a moment, I printed this story up. It's called the Butterfly Struggle Story, and there's many variations of this. You could find it essentially anywhere on the internet. And I think this is a great way to kick off this episode, is by sharing this story. And some of you may have heard of this story. If you haven't, I think it's great to listen to. So let's go ahead and read this. Go ahead and sit back, relax, and enjoy this story. Once a little boy was playing outdoors and found a fascinating caterpillar. He carefully picked it up and took it home to show his mother. He asked his mother if he could keep it, and she said he could, as long as he would take good care of it. The little boy got a large jar from his mother and put plants to eat and a stick to climb on inside the jar. Every day he watched the caterpillar and brought it new plants to eat. He's taking care of it. One day the caterpillar climbed up the stick and started acting strangely. The boy worriedly called his mother, who came and understood that the caterpillar was creating a cocoon. The mother explained to the boy how the caterpillar was going through a metamorphosis and would soon become a butterfly. The little boy was thrilled to hear about the changes his caterpillar would go through. He watched every day, waiting for the butterfly to emerge. One day, it happened. A small hole appeared in the cocoon, and the butterfly started to struggle to come out. At first, the boy was excited, but soon he became concerned. The butterfly was struggling so hard to get out. It looked like it couldn't break free. It looked desperate. It looked like it was making no progress at all. The boy was so concerned he decided to help. He ran to get scissors and then came back. He snipped the cocoon to make the hole bigger, and the butterfly quickly emerged. As the butterfly came out, the boy was surprised. It had a swollen body and small, shriveled wings. He continued to watch the butterfly, expecting that at any moment the wings would dry out, enlarge, and expand to support the swollen body. He knew that in time the body would shrink and the butterfly wings would expand. But neither happened. The butterfly spent the rest of its life crawling around with a swollen body and shriveled wings. It was never able to fly. As the boy tried to figure out what had gone wrong, his mother took him to talk to a scientist from a local college. He learned that the butterfly was supposed to struggle. In fact, the butterfly's struggle to push its way through the tiny opening in the cocoon, pushes the fluid out of its body and into its wings. Without the struggle, the butterfly would never fly. The boy's good intentions hurt the butterfly. Keep in mind that struggling is an important part of any growth experience. In fact, it is the struggle that causes you to develop your ability to fly. So that's the butterfly struggle story. Maybe you're avoiding struggle, maybe you're avoiding discomfort, and perhaps you were taught that. Perhaps it's become habitual and the brain has created an automatic habit out of it. So if you want to experience any sort of radical change in your life, even simple, small changes in your life, whether it's related to your mind, your body, your health, your spirit, your relationships, regardless of what type of changes you want to make, big or small, if you're avoiding discomfort and struggle, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So mastering discomfort, mastering struggle should very much become a part of who you are and what you do on a daily basis. Now, I'm not talking about going and jumping off buildings or jumping in front of traffic. That's a little bit different, of course. But we're talking about true strategic change in your life, areas that you really want to change. And there are things that you are avoiding. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's taking action. Maybe it's procrastination. And that's all tied in with your brain. What type of automatic programs do you have running that are preventing you from becoming an exceptional person, living an exceptional life, mastering your life in mind, body, and spirit? There's so many changes you can make in your life. Why are you holding back? Why are you avoiding that discomfort? Well, that's a good question. And it's not completely your own conscious fault. You're not physically or mentally purposely trying to hold yourself back from doing things, of course. But as we talked in the first part of this video on the last episode, that discomfort can very well become a part of your automatic programming. And based on how we are raised, different traumas we've experienced, different threatening situations we've experienced, that all plays a role in the type of person we become, the type of automatic programs we have running, and the way the subconscious mind works. If you constantly have negative thoughts and emotions, and you just overall have a bitter, negative personality, that could very well be a direct reflection of what's going on in your subconscious mind. So let's talk about the brain a little bit and why discomfort is what it is. So as I've talked in previous videos, we've talked about some of the priorities of the brain, and it really has two main priorities, one of them being safety. If your brain identifies something as risky or threatening to you as a person, or it feels the stress hormones that you're activating because of a certain situation, your brain's going to fight you every step of the way. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we have so many people living in stressful, negative mindsets constantly, and they don't know how to regulate those emotions, and your brain just lets those thoughts in, right? Every single stressful thought that you're thinking or creating based on the emotions that you're feeling, your brain is identifying as a threatening situation. So whether it's getting up to speak in front of a group of people, which in no way is threatening whatsoever, but your mind identifies as some sort of threatening situation, and that's probably from programming as a child. Maybe you were made fun of in front of a group of kids when you were in kindergarten, and it registered in your mind as a threatening situation, that now every time you try to do public speaking, you get all worked up, your autonomic nervous system goes berserk, and your brain sees a threatening situation, and it stops you from wanting to do that. It's going to pull you back. It's going to cause you to fight it. It's going to cause you to procrastinate. And then a lot of people don't do public speaking because of that. And that's just a very minimized definition of how that could come to be, but there's all sorts of different ways in which the fear of public speaking could come up. So a lot of the reasons we stop ourselves and hold ourselves back from doing things is because of ingrained fears, ingrained programming. 90% of those fears are not even real, meaning they are more of illusions, and in the fear and the ideas that you see in your head and your thoughts and your emotions that get all worked up about them are really overreacting. And that's so, you know, a majority of the time those fears are really just illusions. They're false evidence appearing real. That's what fear stands for, at least in my world. False evidence appearing real. So remember that. That's a good one. But anyways, so what happens is over time, your brain sets a baseline of comfort. It becomes accustomed to what is comfortable within your life. And you very easily go about your life living in a somewhat comfortable manner. And anything outside that comfort zone immediately triggers that autonomic nervous system and a reaction from your brain, and it'll stop you from doing things. And so people with the best intentions and the best ideas and the best plans get held back from taking action, from moving forward, from putting themselves out there, because the brain fights them all the time. So the brain is always looking to keep you safe, avoid dangerous situations, whether they're really dangerous or not. The brain's not going to try to determine if the situation you're fearful of, like public speaking or asking a girl out on a date, is actually a real dangerous situation. It's just like an automatic machine. It's going to register the way you're reacting, and it's going to shut you down before you have a chance to do anything. So you already have a somewhat like a thermostat set on what's comfortable and what's uncomfortable, and that has been developed all the way from back when you were a child. And so there's a lot of fears, there's a lot of things holding you back, and typically it's just yourself holding you back. So the reason we're talking about this is because one of the things you need to do is start to adjust that baseline of comfort. You want to get to the point where you approach discomfort and struggle so much, you put yourself out there so much that your new normal adjusts to that level, meaning that the uncomfortable, discomforting, struggling situations that you feared before become your new normal. That uncomfortable situations become comfortable. Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, you can do that. And neuroscientists are proving that. They have proven that. There's plenty of research out there about that. And so all it really is the neural networks becoming reprogrammed in your mind. If you could start to intentionally face those uncomfortable situations, those fearful situations, that struggle that you're avoiding, you can make that your new normal. It may take some time. It's going to take a lot of practice, and it's going to be hard because your brain's going to fight you. Start to adjust that thermostat, that baseline, your comfort zone will expand. Your new comfort zone will include discomfort, and that's the ultimate goal. And that's where the power lies. When discomfort becomes your new normal, you become supernatural. You become superhuman. You become bold. You become confident. You become healthy and vibrant and full of vitality, and all areas of your life will improve. So let's talk a little bit about how you could start to do this, right? How can you do this, right? I mentioned there's 5 ways in which I do this, and I've been doing it for years now, and it's totally enhanced my life. So I'm going to share those 5 different ways in which you can start to engage with discomfort and struggle in a very effective manner. Okay, so the first thing you need to do in order to start to approach engaging with discomfort, putting yourself out there, approaching fear, and having the courage to do so is to, number 1, become aware. Number 1, become aware. You need to expand your awareness. You need to expand your perception of reality. And what I mean by that is you need to start to shift your attention so that you can recognize where you are holding yourself back. So you could start to recognize where it is that you become uncomfortable, when you start to feel those uncomfortable feelings. And believe it or not, it's hard for a lot of people to do, because a lot of people are so caught up in either what has happened in their past or they're worrying about the future that they fail to recognize the present moment. So you got to become more present, become more aware of the present. So how do you do that? Well, you got to start to practice being more present, more conscious, more aware. One way in which you can start to do that immediately is to several times a day, just focus on your breathing. And this starts to rewire your brain to become more present. When you start to become more present, then you start to build an awareness and a perception of the present moment that you can quickly get into. So how do you do that? Just taking 5 or 6 deep breaths whenever you remember to do so, or you could even set a reminder on your phone to do this if you're really distracted and you can't even find time to do it. Set a reminder on your phone, or just whenever you think to do it, start taking deep breaths. You breathe in through your nose. You can breathe in through your mouth. I like to breathe in through my nose, sometimes my mouth. It's not going to really matter. You're going to breathe in, force the air into your stomach first, and then your chest. Just pause for a brief second and slowly out. Sometimes it's nice to close your eyes. You start to get this warm, fuzzy feeling. And if you start to practice this, just doing this breath alone can change your life in so many ways. And I'm going to have other videos about breathing down the road. But for this awareness exercise, in order to start to engage with discomfort and fear and struggle, this is a great way to start to bring awareness and presence to your body. And as you start to develop the neural networks to help you become more aware and present more often, then you could start to recognize the things that are holding you back, where your fears are, where you're reacting, where you're holding yourself back from doing something. Okay, so my camera just shut off in the middle of me speaking because my light was kind of shining right on it and it got overheated and shut down. So kind of brought me back into the present moment of where I was and what I was talking about. So I had to readjust the light, start the camera again. So basically where I left off was, number one, you got to become more present, more aware of what you're thinking and how you're feeling, because it's going to open you up to opportunities to understand where you're holding yourself back. And meditation is going to be a big part of this too, and I would suggest looking into meditation if you haven't done that already, because that's going to help you become more aware, more present, and more conscious of your thoughts, your emotions, your fears, your doubts, your worries, and that all plays into this. So I would explore meditation. I'm going to be talking all about meditation, and I'm going to have videos about how to meditate and how I meditate and different ways to do it, but there's millions of videos and millions of people you can learn from out there to practice meditation, even if it's a few minutes per day. So becoming more aware, more conscious, more present, you will identify opportunities where you can start to engage with discomfort in a more effective manner that's going to help you grow and expand and become more exceptional in life, right? So number two, start small. You could actively start to engage with discomfort on small things. So how do you do that? Well, it's things as simple as when your alarm goes off in the morning, instead of hitting that snooze button, get yourself up out of bed, right? Do it immediately as soon as the alarm goes off. Try to challenge yourself to get up out of bed, right? I know I've personally have been challenged with this as well. You hear that alarm and it's so easy to hit snooze, right? So become aware of that, right? In what way can you put yourself in that uncomfortable situation where you get up out of bed immediately? You're not going to want to do it. Your brain's going to fight you. It's a habit. Maybe you've been doing it your whole life. So start to find ways in which you could do that. That's a small way to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation that you don't want to do and you don't like, but it could bring you some phenomenal benefits. It gives you more time to your day. You're going to feel that little win. It's going to feel rewarding when you actually do overcome yourself and get up out of bed. So that's one way. Another way is like try brushing your teeth with the opposite hand. I'm left-handed and I brush my teeth with my right hand sometimes. It really awakens your brain. It's uncomfortable and your brain's going to fight you. The first time you try to do it, You're going to be like, what am I doing? It's going to feel silly. It's going to feel weird. You're not going to want to do it. You're going to be like, why am I even doing this? The whole point of that is it's something small, first of all, right? It does awaken your brain because your brain has to start forming new neural networks to help you accomplish that task, which you never do with your opposite hand. So you awaken your brain, you're starting to form new neural networks. And it can be very beneficial because of that. And these small wins that you do will help your trajectory as you move into larger, more challenging, more uncomfortable situations, circumstances, events, whatever, tasks, activities. So these are small ways in which you could start to toy with this, right? And now I actually brush my teeth a lot with my opposite hand. I don't do it every day, but I actually become quite proficient in doing it with my right hand. I'm still solid with my left hand, right? I could do it great with my left hand, but my right hand, compared to when I first started doing it, it's like I learned a whole new language almost, right? And all I'm doing is brushing my teeth, but that's what it feels like. So those small wins, those small rewards where you can start to face discomfort head on, will help you as you progress in challenging yourself more down the road with bigger and more exciting things, right? So I would start with the small things. Other small things could be like maybe you're socially awkward, right? Maybe you are uncomfortable in social situations. You can start to be proactive in actually approaching people, saying hi. Maybe you don't say hi to people when you're walking down the road. Maybe your face is always buried in your phone. Maybe you could start to become aware of that and proactively challenge yourself to smile at people and say hello. Say hi. You don't got to stop and have a conversation with them, but that's another small way you could start to do that. And guess what? All of these small, uncomfortable tasks and activities are going to light your brain up, and your brain to fire and wire new neural networks, which is new learning. It's going to enhance your brain. It's going to enhance your mind. It's going to start to make habits out of what you're doing. And these uncomfortable small things will start to become your new normal as you move up to bigger and bigger things. So you could do the same thing with women. If you're a man and you're afraid to ask women out on a date, you're afraid of rejection. Rejection is a phenomenal way to really put yourself out there and face discomfort. Again, it could be on a very small scale. Ask if maybe there's a beautiful woman at your office that you have a decent relationship with, but you've been struggling to ask her out. Well, become aware of that. And put yourself into that uncomfortable situation head on. Face that fear head on and have the courage to just ask her out. The worst that's going to happen, she's going to say no. And even if she does say no, it doesn't matter. So other small ways you can begin to face discomfort is, starting a meditation practice, starting a physical fitness routine, or joining a class, some sort of exercise or fitness class that maybe you've been putting off. Essentially, any area of your life where you're holding yourself back or you're procrastinating, that checklist you might have to do, any of those things that you're putting off, that you're not facing, you need to face them and do them. It is going to be uncomfortable. You can start to make that discomfort a habit to the point where your brain elevates that baseline of that comfort zone, that baseline of comfort, to include uncomfortable activities. And that's where you become more and more powerful. Now imagine if you elevated that to such a level, you can become a leader in your field. You can become the best public speaker out there. You can become the top sales rep of your sales team. You could do anything. You could start that business where you had that idea, but your brain shut it down, or other people's criticism shut it down, but you had that business idea. You can start that business. You could take massive action. Tony Robbins talks about it all the time. Take massive action. So you need to start to face that fear head on. Start small. Start practicing it every day. Maybe make it a point every day to do something that's outside your comfort zone. Do something that's uncomfortable. Do something that's going to cause a rejection, or will in incur some sort of rejection, do it anyways, because it's not really about all those little things you're doing. It's about the habits that you're forming and the changes you're making to your brain that's going to make you supernatural. It's going to make you legendary and amazing. So you can elevate that baseline of comfort to the point that you are great, to the point that you are happy, to the point where rejection is a joke, you don't care, to the point where other people's criticism doesn't matter, to the point where you can brush your teeth with both sides of your body, with both hands, right? It's not going to matter. Those things aren't going to matter, but it's cool because you're going to get good at all that stuff you're practicing too. But really, it's all about changing your brain where discomfort becomes comfortable. Okay? Where discomfort becomes comfortable. So that was number 2. So number 1 was becoming more aware, more self-aware, more present, more grounded, so that you could start to recognize opportunities where you can face and engage with discomfort, face fears that maybe you're unaware of. Number 2 was start small. If you want to jump in feet first and do some big things, do that too. But starting small is a good habit to form so you could start to elevate that baseline of comfort. Now, number 3 is to challenge yourself. Specifically, challenge the urges or the cravings to procrastinate, to put something off, to not do something because of fear. Challenge those urges and those cravings that hold you back. Actually, as you become more present and more aware of yourself, you can start to recognize the fear as it comes up, and you could actually dissipate it before it even occurs. And that will take some time to develop, but you could start to recognize the fears or those urges or those cravings that cause you to procrastinate or cause you to do something comfortable as opposed to facing a challenge or an obstacle or something that you really would love to do, but you're too afraid to do it. So ride the wave of emotion as they come up. Actually take some time to just kind of feel them out, experience them, see where you're feeling them in your body. Do that breathing exercise I told you. Take 5 or 6 deep breaths. Feel the emotions, recognize the emotions, recognize the urges to procrastinate, the cravings, and start to become more aware in that sense and challenge those. Challenge those. If it's something you fear, do it. If it's something that would cause you to procrastinate, typically, feel it, recognize it, and challenge it, and do it. Actually do it. So that's number 3. Number 4 is one of my favorite, and that is self-talk. Your self-talk, self-praise. You want to come up with an optimistic sense of self-talk and self-praise on a daily basis. And the reason being is because that's going to help rewire your brain for greatness. That's going to help rewire your brain to take more action and to procrastinate less, to face your fears more often, to have more courage. So how do you do that? It's simple. Tell yourself exactly what you want to hear. And why is that important? Because the brain, especially the subconscious mind, it doesn't care what you're telling it. Meaning, it doesn't know or care if it's good or bad. If you are constantly talking to yourself in a negative mindset, even if it's inside your head, and I don't mean talking out loud, but we all have a self-talk, we all have those little voices in our head. If you're constantly telling yourself that you can't do it, you can't do this, I'm out of shape, I'm unhealthy, I'm this, I'm that, you have to become aware of what you're saying to yourself, because your brain doesn't care if it's bad or good, it's going to let it in. And remember, if you watched my video on the mind, the subconscious and conscious mind, remember, your brain wants to create efficiencies in your life because it has so much to take care of and to take in on a second-by-second basis. So if you are constantly, day in and day out, talking to yourself in a negative manner with I can'ts or I'm not, then your brain is going to take it literally. And again, your brain, your subconscious mind is just going to let it in. It's like a tape recorder. It's just going to record that over and over again to the point where it says, you know what? You keep telling me you're not good enough. You keep telling me that you're lazy. You keep telling me you forget people's names. You keep telling me you'll do it later. You know what? I'm going to make these all automatic so you don't got to keep saying it in your head or saying it out loud over and over and over again. And it literally becomes you. You become procrastination. You become I'm this, I'm that, I can't do this, I can never do that. So it literally becomes automatic. And so a lot of you are going to have that already going on. I know I've had a lot of this in my life that I've completely rewired my brain and turned it around, but I still have some of it. I'm always working on it. I'll probably always be working on it. But simple shifts by recognizing what you're saying to yourself, what you're thinking to yourself, can have massive effects on your life moving forward. And this will help you face your fears. This will help you embrace struggle, and this will help you embrace discomfort. So start telling yourself what you want to hear. Start telling yourself what you are, what you want to be, even if you're not there yet. And be very determined with it, and use very simple language with it. It doesn't have to be all flowery language or anything. You know, I am good enough. I am courageous. I am the #1 public speaker in my office. I am empowered. I am an inspiration. I can lift weights. I can exercise. I'm an excellent jiu-jitsu artist. I'm an excellent cardio kickboxer, whatever. You get the point. Be determined about it, and if you could say it out loud, if you're not going to freak other people out, if you have some space in your home, or if you're out in nature or something by yourself, it's actually more effective if you do say it out loud and you get your body involved and you get your energy flowing. You'll start to feel it. Do this every day. I actually have an alarm set on my phone. At 9:30 a.m. every day, I go through a series of self-praise and self-talk. I tell myself what I want to hear. I tell myself that I'm proud of myself. I tell myself that I'm an excellent communicator. I tell myself that I'm prosperous and abundant, that I'm living an exceptional life, that I'm healthy and full of vitality and well-being, that I'm young and vibrant and energetic. And guess what? Every day I've been doing this for a while now, that I just feel that. I naturally feel that. I naturally am that. The mind becomes the body becomes the mind. Your mind will make that automatic. It may be silly at first, and it may take you a year or two before you even start to really feel it, but it probably won't take that long. If you really start to do it and you really engage in it, then it's going to help you tremendously. So I would suggest self-praise, self-talk it. Do it at least once a day, maybe a couple times a day. If you can do it out loud, state it out loud, and state it with enthusiasm and confidence, and feel it when you say it. And if you can do it out loud, it's going to be 10 times more effective. And there is science to back that up. I don't have it with me right now, but trust me, it's there. Neuroscience has been exploring all of this stuff, and it's tremendous. And I know it's worked for me, and it'll work for you. So it'll help you as you rewire your brain. It will help you become more confident in starting to face those challenging situations, those tough situations. It's going to help you face your fears. It's going to help you put yourself into those uncomfortable situations, especially the more important, valuable ones that could be life-changing for you. You know, I know number 2 was start small, and that's great, but those are going to help you as you progress into more challenging situations, and as you start to elevate that baseline of comfort to include amazing situations that you maybe never imagined yourself doing or taking on, because you just never saw yourself at that level, or maybe it was too much fear, right? Maybe it was way too uncomfortable to even think about. That's what this can do. So self-talk, self-praise is going to help you tremendously if you start to implement that as part of your daily routine. And even if you only spend a couple minutes doing it, I would suggest, even if it's 30 seconds, as long as you could feel it when you say it, and say it with confidence, and be direct with what your words are. You don't have to use fancy, flowery, whatever language. Just be direct. I am this. I am that. I am proud of you, Michael. I love you. You're an amazing individual. You're an amazing man. You're an excellent creator. You're an excellent communicator. Whatever it is, whatever you want for yourself, state it. Tell yourself that, and tell yourself you're proud of it, because you are that. Okay? And you will become that. Okay. Number 5, some very specific techniques. Number 5 is techniques. So there's all sorts of great techniques out there to face your fears, to engage with discomfort, and to really just put yourself out there, to avoid procrastination, to avoid the excuses. There's all sorts of techniques that you can find out there. I'm going to tell you about the ones that I use daily, or I've used in the past, or even occasionally. So I mentioned a couple already. The breathing and the meditation are going to be great ways for you to start to become more present and more aware and start to change your psychology and the way your brain's wired. So they're indirectly going to help you over time as you develop more confidence, more self-esteem, and you become more aware of yourself, your feelings, your triggers, your thought processes. So those are great techniques by themselves that I've already mentioned, but they're more indirect. I would highly suggest taking them on. The same with the self-praise and self-talk that I mentioned on number 4. Again, a great technique that I would use daily. I would start to implement it. I would spend at least 30 seconds to a minute. If you could do longer, do longer. A couple times a day, even better. Now, for more specific techniques, when it comes to situations where you're simply frozen with fear, or it feels too uncomfortable, or you're just struggling too much to even challenge those fears or put yourself in that situation where you're going to struggle or face that discomfort, there are certain techniques where you can help shift your mind immediately and start to take action. So one of my favorite is this. When you're in a situation where you become hesitant, where you kind of either get frozen by fear or indecision, you're hesitating from taking some sort of action or doing something or putting yourself out there. I don't know exactly where this statement came from. I wrote it down a long time ago and I've used it often, and it's helped me in tremendous ways. And so I'm not sure who the original author was of this technique, but you say this to yourself. When you're in that situation, you're at that moment of indecision, hesitation, you're going to procrastinate or not take action. You're trying to face that fear. You say, what would I do if I was 10 times bolder? You ask yourself that question. You could ask yourself out loud or just in your head. What would I do if I was 10 times bolder? And the first thing your mind comes up with, you immediately do and take action. You don't think any longer. You immediately take whatever action comes up. Now, you got to be careful with this. If your mind tells you to jump off a bridge, you obviously don't want to do that, right? Now, and that seems silly, but I'm just putting that disclaimer out there. You know, you want to use this with discretion, right? So what would I do if I was 10 times bolder? So maybe it's you're approaching that woman at the office. You think she's amazing. She's beautiful. You guys have great chemistry and you want to ask her out, but you're too afraid to. Right? You just want to ask her out for a cup of coffee, right? And maybe you're too afraid to. And maybe you're like, I'm going to do it, but you're walking up to her and she looks at you, makes the eye contact, and boom, you're frozen with fear and you're getting ready to escape, right? Your brain's going to pull you out of it because it senses danger. So you say in your head, what would I do if I was 10 times bolder? And most likely your brain's going to come up with a really good reason, like walk right up to her with confidence and tell her. Boom, you do it. You go and you do whatever that action is. You don't think any longer. Because if you start to think, or you allow yourself to think, or you take any more time after you come up with whatever it is that comes up, you're probably not going to do it. So you got to take action immediately. That was always one of my favorite ones. I still use it from time to time. Especially if I get hung up in something. What would I do if I was 10 times bolder? Boom, pick up that phone, call that client, whatever. That's a great one. I love that one. So that's one of them. Another one that's similar is Mel Robbins has the 5-second rule. And I highly suggest you checking her out because she's got all sorts of great videos. And I believe she has a book out on this. And this is a good one that I've actually used. And this kind of plays into that first one. It's almost like a variation of it. And her 5-second rule is essentially this. Anytime you have an idea or some sort of situation where you're facing an obstacle, you essentially have 5 seconds to take some sort of action to move forward, to progress before the subconscious mind takes over, before your subconscious habits of procrastination and excuses and so on and so forth take over. The way it works is you have that obstacle, you have that fear, you have that idea, whatever it is. You have 5 seconds, so you can count down from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and you just take action without thinking. Don't think about it any longer. If you give yourself more than 5 seconds, most likely your subconscious mind's going to take over. And the reason being is it's basically a habit loop interrupter, as she explains, and this is, again, this is backed up in neuroscience. And so you essentially have that short time frame to take some sort of action. So it's good to take action, move forward, start talking, pick up the phone, whatever it is that you're facing that's difficult, or you have some sort of idea, but your brain or your fear is holding you back. It's another great one. Just like the 10 times bolder, you got to immediately take action when you have that thought. This is, again, a variation of that. And so I would definitely look up Mel Robbins, check her out. She's great to listen to, and she talks all about this. Another one that you can use, and this is one that I use actually quite a bit, it's just a very simplified version of the first two, is what I call no thought, just do. This is just something I came up with for myself that I use quite a bit. It's a real quick, easy way to adjust my mind, to interrupt those habits, to interrupt any sort of excuses or procrastination that may occur. So anytime I kind of pause, or I'm hesitating with some sort of goal or objective, or there's a fear that I'm faced with, obstacle, whatever, I simply think in my mind, no thought, just do, and then I do, and then I go. So again, it's like a variation of the first two. No thought, just do. I do this a lot when I'm doing my ice baths or cold showers, and I'll get more into those in other videos. Talk about being uncomfortable. That's one of the hardest things to do, is to intentionally walk into ice water and keep yourself there. It's a tough one, but I do it every single day. And a lot of times I have that hesitation right before I go into it, and I say to myself, no thought, just do, and I go right in. So that's another way, another good technique. Another excellent technique is EFT, which is also known as tapping. And I'm not going to get too much into this, but tapping is essentially a way of reprogramming your subconscious mind. It's a form of energy psychology, and you're actually tapping on different meridian points of your body to interrupt your nervous system, and to dissolve different fears, different excuses, different limiting beliefs, and install new ones. It's phenomenal technique that I use every single day. Every single morning I do several rounds of tapping. Sometimes I do it for 10-20 minutes. Other times I do it for an hour or more, just depending. So I would suggest you look into tapping. There's some great teachers out there that teach tapping. There's the Ortners, Nick Ortner, Jessica Ortner. There's Brad Yates, one of my favorites. Julie Schiffman. There's all sorts of great people, instructors out there who can explain what tapping is and how this can help you with facing discomfort, engaging with discomfort, facing your fears, and becoming more action-oriented in your life so you can live a better, exceptional life. So I love tapping. I'm going to have quite a few videos about tapping on this podcast eventually, and I plan on having some of the experts on to talk about it, because it truly is an excellent technique that I've used in my life for many different purposes. But tapping is another great one. There's the physical techniques. So I mentioned the ice baths, cold showers. If you want to really try to face discomfort and really control your nervous system, and you start to rewire your brain, deliberately walking into a cold shower on the coldest setting is another more physical way of doing it. And trust me, your brain's going to fight you the whole way. But if you could start to calm yourself down, control your automatic responses, start to focus on your breathing, you can do it. And an ice bath or a cold shower has many different health benefits over and above the brain and the autonomic nervous system. And I'm going to have more videos on that as well, but maybe start to look into that. Because that is a tremendous way to face a difficult situation and feel very rewarded by it. If you can intentionally walk into cold water or an ice bath or cold shower, regardless of what it is, you can pretty much do anything. Again, exercise is another way. You know, a lot of people enjoy exercise, but it could be tough. It could be tough to do high intensity exercise. I train in jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'm constantly in a state of discomfort there. And just as I feel like I'm getting better and better, I'm humbled again and again by advanced level athletes who who humble me because I realize I'm not as good as I thought I was. And so it's a constant state of discomfort, but I experience tremendous growth, physical fitness, health, and the mindset. Tremendous growth in the mindset as well. So maybe trying different physical activities, the Spartan races, triathlons, biathlons, whatever. There's all sorts of different physical ways to get involved with struggle and discomfort, and you'll experience tremendous growth if you actually engage in them and you get yourself to actually do it. That's all I'm going to go into today. A lot of those techniques I use daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. They've worked well for me. I suggest you try them out. And remember, there is comfort in discomfort. If you want to experience radical growth in any area of your life, then you need to start deliberately putting yourself into situations that are uncomfortable, situations where you're going to struggle, and you're going to experience massive growth. Because remember, once you start to elevate that baseline of comfort to include discomfort as a norm, then you will become unstoppable, and you, my friend, will live an exceptional life.